the subject of the shiur that I'm going to focus is the preview on Megillat Ruth. We go through the 4th chapter of Megillat Ruth, and we'll try to understand that, please God, when we read on Shavuot, on the second day of Shavuot, when we read Megillat Ruth, we'll understand what's happening. What is Megillat Ruth? So before we start, last week we spoke about Ruth. Who was Ruth? We see that there is few other main character in Megillat Ruth. There is Boaz, as you all know. There is Elimelech, and there is Naomi. 3 main characters beside Ruth in Megillat Ruth. Who was Ruth? Who was Boaz? We explained who was Ruth. We brought the mahloket, the gemarot between Gemara Horayot and the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin. There is a mahloket among the sages if Ruth was the daughter of Eglon Melech Moab. That means Eglon was the king of the Moabite nation. If she was his daughter or she was a granddaughter. Vice versa, she was a prince, no matter what. Today we speak about Boaz. I'm going to do a bit of introduction to Boaz. Who was Boaz? Boaz was the son of Salmon. Who was Salmon? Salmon was the son of Nachshon ben Aminadab. That he was the head of the tribes of Yehuda. We have 12 tribes. Among them was Yehuda. The head of the tribe was Nachshon ben Aminadab. That means that Boaz was his grandson. Then, in Sefer Shoftim, in the book of Judges, we see something very interesting. In the book of Judges, it's mentioned the name of Avtzan.
Of?
Avtzan. Who was Avtzan? Avtzan was a judge in that time. But it doesn't tell us who he is. Hazal, everyone understand Hazal. Hazal, it means Chachamenu Zichronam Livracha. That means our sages, may their soul rest in peace. Okay? Hazal tell us in Gemara Masechet Baba Batra, in page 91, folio 1, Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph, that you know who was that famous judge of Tzam. That was Boaz. So we see from here that Boaz actually wasn't just a normal person that have a field, like it's found in Megillat Ruth. Boaz was one of the judges that the Jewish people have. Then we have Elimelech. Who was Elimelech? Elimelech was the son of Nachshon ben Aminadab. Again, the Gemara in Masechet Baba Batra explained that to us. That tell us that Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, was the son of Nachshon ben Aminadab. Nachshon ben Aminadab, Rabotai, he was the head of the tribe of Yehuda. Elimelech was a very rich man that lived in Bethlehem, the city of Bethlehem. That's Elimelech. Then we have Naomi, his wife. Hazal say, how come that they called her Naomi? Why did they give her the name Naomi? Not for nothing. So Hazal, in Midrash Rabbah, chapter 2, verse 5, Hazal tell us, you know why Naomi been called Naomi? Hazal answer, I'm going to say it in Hebrew, then I will translate to English. Shema'aseya hayu na'im ve'na'imim. That means that whatever deeds that Naomi done, besides that it was pleasant, it was good. That's what she called Naomi. So now we know the 3 characters, the extra 3 characters that we're going to speak in the Megillah, we know who we're talking about.
So question, when she born, what is her name?
Naomi, that was her name.
Why? When she born, she didn't done nothing.
She got the name.
Was baby.
Nachon, but
so
when...
how you can say, because she done good things and...
Nachon, very good. So Hazal say 40 yom, 40 days before a baby born, parents think usually they give him the name. It's not true. HaKadosh Baruch Hu give the name before. He just put it in the head of the parents. How many times happened that parents were speaking about certain names, and the next thing, we got a different name in the last minute. They changed their mind, whatever the case is. So Hazal tell us 40 yom before. Now I'm going to do introduction to Megillat Ruth, and then we're going to go through the Megillah. Okay, the Megillat Ruth been written, as we mentioned, by Shmuel HaNavi. Shmuel the prophet. He wrote Megillat Ruth. Megillat Ruth, the story of Megillat Ruth happened during the time of the judges. Now, for us to understand when was the judges, I have to do a bit history. We all know that Moshe Rabbeinu took Bnei Israel out of Egypt, נכון? Before they enter Eretz Israel, Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. Yoshua bin Nun, his servant, took over, and he led the Jewish people to Eretz Israel. He conquered Eretz Israel, okay? And inherited Eretz Israel. To who? To Bnei Israel. And then during that time, Rabotai, he split the land to all different heritage, to 12 different heritage. That's Yeshua bin Nun. After Yeshua bin Nun died, Rabotai, came the time of the judges. That's the time of the judges. Shvot HaShoftim, yeah. And then during that era took 301 years. The era of the judges took 301 years. Okay, after the death of Yeshua bin Nun, from the death of Yeshua bin Nun till the end of the time of the judges took 301 years. Until the appointment of Shaul HaMelech, the first king that the Jewish people have. Now we understand a bit of introduction. Any question? Yes, David. Okay, very good, very good. It was in 113 before the Common Era, before they start counting. That's when we're talking about, okay? Before they start counting. 113 before the Common Era. Shukwa. I forget to mention that. Okay, so now we're going to start.
We had shiurim from,
Sorry?
We had shiurim from Rav, I remember his name just now. He said it took 480 years.
The judges?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where he got his source, but okay. So the
Perez.
who?
Perez.
When did you have Shaul? Many years ago.
That's a long
You're
time
sure
ago.
that was 480? I think that you're confusing here. But anyway, it was 301. Check the sources. You see that the time of the judges was 301 years. That was exactly the time that the judges was in power. And after that starts become the king's era. That the first king, as we mentioned, that was Shaul HaMelech. After that, David. After that, took his son, Shlomo, Solomon. Remember? Anyway, let's start with the Megillah to try to understand what's happening. In chapter 1, the Megillah starts like this. Very interesting. The Megillah starts that it was during the time of the Shoftim. Shvot HaShoftim. What it means, Shvot HaShoftim? That the people used to judge the judges. You understand? Very strangely. That means at that time, the judges, as much that they have power, they didn't have really power. So the story of Megillat Ruth telling us, in the time of the judges, was a very wealthy family. The family of Elimelech, not Avimelech. And Elimelech was a very wealthy man, very rich man that lived in Bethlehem, as we mentioned. He had a wife, Naomi, and he had two sons, Mahlon and Chilion. Remember, two sons, Mahlon and Chilion. And the Megillah carry on and tell us that during that time was a famine in Eretz Israel. And Elimelech, that was a very wealthy man, decided that he doesn't want the poor person to come to knock on his step door, to ask him for money, to ask him for food. He decided, you know what I'll do? I'd rather emigrate to Moab. Okay, so they're going to the land of Moab. In Moab, he decided to settle down until the famine going to be finished. And when the famine going to be finished, he will return back to Eretz Israel. That's what he done. Elimelech took his wife and his 2 kids. They're actually not kids, they was adult already, because we'll see just now that they got married. They're gone to Moab. In the land of Moab, they settled down. In the land of Moab, when they arrived, the 2 sons met 2 ladies, Ruth and Orpah. Ruth and Orpah was 2 sisters. Now just remember, Ruth and Orpah was not Jewish. Ruth and Orpah was a Moabite. Okay, now I'm going to just do a quick introduction for us to understand. Hazal asking, what's happened there? How did Elimelech, that came and was a son of a prince of Shevet Yehuda, allowed his kids to marry 2 non-Jewish girls? Now Ruth and Orpah were sisters. Hazal explained it was a mahloket among the sages. Did Ruth and Orpah convert or not? In the end, most of the poskim, most of the Hazal say that they did convert before they married them. That means Mahlon that married Ruth and Kilion that married Orpah, before they married them, they converted.
Didn't they create a Bezdin with the 3 men?
Sorry?
Didn't they make a
I don't know how they make it. You know, if they make a bed din or not make bed din. This is a small story. Hazal tell us that they convert. What difference does it make? How? If it was 10 or 3, it doesn't make a difference. They convert. You understand what I'm saying? How to convert, it's not the issue. So there is a mahloket amongst the sages. Did Orpah and Ruth convert? In the end, most of the sages say, and they bring in sources to it in the Gemarot, that they did convert. Okay. As they arrive in the land of Moab, shortly after they arrive in Moab, Elimelech, the father, died. Suddenly, Elimelech died. Naomi left with 2 boys that married 2 daughters, 2 princes. Who? Ruth and Orpah. Again, Mahlon married Ruth. Kilion married Orpah. Shortly after that, also the 2 sons, Mahlon and Kilion, died. Ruth found herself a widow in a strange land. 10 years from the day that she left Eretz Israel until that moment, past 10 years, suddenly she's a widow, no husband, no kids. She by herself with 2 daughter-in-laws. Yes?
I think you answered it. I want to know, did either of them have any children?
We'll get to it now. Well, that's part of the story. They didn't have. We'll explain why was all the story. You'll see why. If they have children, if Ruth have kids, wouldn't be all of the story with Boaz. Let's continue. 10 years later, Naomi finds herself 2 daughters-in-law by herself in Eretz Moab, a poor lady. What's she going to do? She found out that in Eretz Israel the famine is finished. She decided that she's going back to Eretz Israel. The 2 daughters-in-law at the beginning didn't want to leave her. Ruth and Orpah wanted to join her to go to Eretz Israel. Until Naomi managed to convince, because she wanted to test Ruth and Orpah if they really want to go back, if they really took the Jewish religion on them. Orpah decided that's it, it's not for me. Why? Listen, my mother-in-law telling me she's a poor person. She's going to go to a land that I don't know no one. I have nothing. I'm going to be poor. I'm a princess. Let me go back. She's going back to the palace, become a prince. And from her, by the way, become Goliath. You understand what's happened? And from Ruth came David HaMelech. Okay? That's the end of chapter 1. Yes, Jew.
Say Naomi was poor.
Naomi became poor after 10 years from the day that she arrived.
Her husband was rich.
A multimillionaire. Money is gone in Moab. He didn't invest it properly. No, don't joke. You'll see now. We're going to get to chapter 2. You'll see now. We're going to start chapter 2. And you'll see what's happened. It's not a joke. Although she has some land in Eretz Israel, you'll see what's happening. It's a very good question when I ask. It's not a simple question. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know what, let me answer that. Good. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I was thinking to leave it for next years, to go in depth through the Megillah. But I'll do it. Hazal say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, before he takes someone's life, he sends them a message. Elimelech wasn't an old person. Wasn't young, but he wasn't old. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't want him to leave Eretz Israel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu given him a present to become a rich person. I made you a rich person. You take your money, you leave my land, instead of looking after the poor people of Eretz Israel. So first he make him poor, Hazal say. The money disappeared. He lost it. When that didn't help him, he didn't return to Eretz Israel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed him that his kid's taking out of the faith, marrying out of the faith. When that wasn't enough, he took him. And then he took both of the sons. That's how Hazal explained in the Gemara. Chapter 2. Let's move on. Let's see how the story of Ruth get developed. Okay? Orpah decided, we said, going back to become a princess. She's going back to the house of her father. She have no problem. Naomi and Ruth stick together. And Ruth said to Naomi, Ba'asher telchi elech. Wherever you go, I will go. Ba'asher talini alin. Wherever you're going to sleep, I will sleep. Amech amiu. Your nation is my nation. That's it. I'm a Jew. I converted Leshem Shamayim. When Naomi saw that, she realized that she don't have a choice. That's it. She have a daughter-in-law, proper daughter-in-law. Naomi and Ruth leaving Eretz Moab. By the way, you know where it's Eretz Moab? Let me tell you where it's Eretz Moab. I don't know if you know the geography of Eretz Israel. In the north, we have the north and the south like every other country. In the north, we have Lebanon. In the south, we have Egypt. Nachon? In the east, we have Jordan. On the west, we have the Mediterranean Sea. Moab was in the east, by Jordan. Okay, that was the land of Moab. So Hazal tell us that Naomi and Ruth moved from Jordan to Eretz Israel through Midbar Yehuda up to Bethlehem. That's where they used to live because they have a house there. When Naomi and Ruth arrived at Bethlehem that day was a big funeral. A huge funeral. That most of the members of the city attended that funeral. Hazal tell us that that was the funeral of the wife of Boaz. Boaz. That was a judge. His wife passed away. Everyone came to the funeral to show respect, and they buried the wife of Boaz. While Ruth and Naomi walking on the street, people too suddenly see two strange women walking. At the beginning they didn't recognize them, Hazal say, but suddenly they start recognizing. And they start whispering to each other, isn't that Naomi, the famous rich woman Naomi, that used to wear jewelry, beautiful clothes, used to ride on a best chariot? And they start whispering. And the Megillah tells us that Ruth heard that. And she said to them, don't call me Naomi. Call me Mara. That means don't call me my real name, call me Mara. Mara is better. And Hazal there explained why did she call Mara, that she's a better, why she was so bitter about it, that she lost a husband, that she lost 2 kids, and on and on and on. She left poor. And suddenly they see Ruth with tearing clothes, bare feet, no money, no jewelry on her hand. It's unbelievable. Ruth and Naomi marching towards the dilapidated house. No one was in their house, walking towards that dilapidated house. As I mentioned, empty, desert house. That's all what she have in Eretz Israel, in Bethlehem. The story carry on in chapter 3, and the Megillah tell us something very interesting. Listen to that. That was the season, the time of the year that they used to harvest the field. What does that have to do with the story? We'll see in the end how every part link one to each other like a puzzle. Just remember, Naomi and Ruth, poor, nothing to eat. We have a mitzvah in the Torah that's called leket, shechecha, and pe'ah. I will explain every one of them. Leket, that means when the reapers harvesting the field, if 2 or 3 straws of the weeds fell on the floor, they're not allowed to pick them up. They have to leave it for the poor people. That's called leket. Shechecha, when they harvest the weeds, they put them in a bundle and they forgot it and they're gone. They're not allowed to come back to take it. That's called shechecha. Pe'ah, when you take the field, the owner of the field obligated to leave small portion of the field unharvested, that the poor people will come and harvest them themselves. Now Ruth, remember Ruth was a poor person. There's nothing to eat in the house. Naomi's, the mother-in-law, is a bit old. We'll see that she was quite old. She wasn't a young woman. Ruth decided to take herself. She took herself in half. She was charismatic. She took initiative, and she gone to the field that Boaz had. Boaz have a field that the reapers used to be busy harvesting. She gone to collect what the aniyim supposed to collect, what the poor person deserved to collect. Boaz, that was watching over his reapers, although that he have a foreman on side, he was watching it, Hazal said. And he see a strange woman, a poor strange woman, walking to his field and acting very strangely, not like all the other poor people. And Hazal said that Boaz called the foreman and said, "Do you know that woman?" He said, "Yes." "You know who she is? You remember your uncle Elimelech? That's one of his daughter-in-law." "Okay." "She's a Moabite." "Okay." Boaz decided to watch her, how she behaved. And he saw that Ruth behaved with such a modesty when she used to pick up the weeds. She allowed to pick up 3 weeds. Instead, she would pick up only 2. Although that she halachically allowed to pick up 3, she would pick up only 2. When she used to sit on the ground to pick up the weeds, she used to sit such modestly that it's actually striking. Boaz told the foreman and the reapers that from now on, they must keep their eyes on that woman, not to harm her. Whatever she wants, she allowed to do. Not only that, Boaz approached her and said to her, "Please come and join us and work with us and harvest with us." She agreed to it. She had nothing to lose. Hazal tells us in lunchtime, Boaz invite her to lunch with all the other reapers. They have what we call סעודת הצהריים של הקוצרים. That means that all the reapers sit together and they have lunch together. And she agreed. She joined them. And that's how Ruth spent the harvesting time on the field of Boaz. Chapter 3.
שאלה.
Yeah.
Isn't the שכחה on purpose?
No? Why is called, מה זה שכחה מלשון?
לשכוח.
לשכוח. מה זה on purpose? There's nothing.
Because the thing is, yes, we do know.
אחרי זה. זה שאלה הלכתית. בואו נמשיך, אחרי זה נפסיק. Chapter 4.
Was the Sukkot time?
Huh?
Was the Sukkot time?
Sukkot.
Yes.
That's the time, no, that's the time now. The same time. Sukkot is a different time. Now in Israel, it's the harvesting time. Hag HaKatzir. We explained last year. Join us more often, Simon. That Shavuot, one of his name, Shavuot have many names. One of his name is Hag HaKatzir. What does it mean, Hag HaKatzir? The festival of harvesting. You follow? So now is the time of harvesting in Eretz Israel. In chapter 4, that's the final chapter, we see something very interesting. After they finish to harvesting the field, come a different time, that after you harvest all the grain, now there is what we call Kufat Hazraya. What is Hazraya? Hazraya in Hebrew, I will translate it to English. That you take the wheat and you peel the shell of it and you keep the seed. That means now it's the final profit. Boaz decided that he's going to spend all of that time in the field and he's going to sleep in a barn. And that's time start to come. In the meantime, Ruth gone back home and told her mother-in-law how Boaz treated her favorably, how he looked after her, how he was good to her. Naomi, as a good mother-in-law, have already idea, a shidduch, you know, like a Yiddish maime. Yeah. Ruth, I have a shidduch for you. I'm telling you what to do. Okay. I want you to wash yourself. I want you to clean yourself, beauty yourself. Wear your Shabbos clothes. From here, Chazal learned the different halacha, that you have to have a different clothes on Shabbos than normal during weekday. And I want you, when it starts to get night, go and lie down by the feet of Boaz. Ruth at the beginning was doubt with it. Chazal have a long story about it. How can she do that? There is Yehud. She's not married. We leave it when we do a translation for the Megillah. Ruth listened to her mother-in-law. After it was night, when she makes sure that all the people in the field gone to sleep, she entered the barn, Rabotai, and she slept by the feet of Boaz. Boaz suddenly felt strange movement by his feet. Chazal tell that he wake up. The next thing he see by his feet, a woman. He was terrified. And he asked her, who you are? What do you want? She said, I'm your servant Ruth. He said, okay, what do you want? What's the story? She said, I want you to marry me. Those words, I want you to marry me. Boaz, just remember, just lost his wife. What is he going to do? Chazal said it was a big discussion. I'm going to make it short for us to understand. And Ruth explained to him that she didn't have kids. That will answer your question. Because she didn't have kids, we have in a Jewish religion that Din Goel. What it means, Din Goel? That Naomi told Ruth to tell Boaz, you're going to take all the heritage of your uncle. Why? Because I didn't have kids, Ruth said to him. And I need the kids to keep the heritage of my father, of my husband. Boaz was debating, then he said to her, look, there's a problem. We have a problem. I'm just the uncle of Elimelech. Elimelech have a brother that called Tov. The name of the brother of Elimelech, Tov. The word good. That was his name. I can't, halachically, I'm not allowed to marry you only if Tov will allow. If Tov decide that he's not going to marry you, I can marry you. She said, what are we going to do? So Boaz said to her, in one condition. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to get a 10 Talmidei Chachamim and Tov, and we're going to do a Din Torah, and we do a Kinyan. Okay? In the morning, but he said to her, before you leave, I want you to leave before the sunrise, so people are not going to speak Lashon Hara about me. But Has v'Shalom, we have a physical relationship. But he said to her, before you leave, I'm going to give you 6 weeds. 6 straw of weeds. What are you? Boaz, you have barns of wheat. You give us 6 straws. Hazal say yes. You know why he gave us 6 wheats? Here he hinted to her that from Ruth gonna come 6 kids. Giant people. No, she have only 1 kid. 6 giant people. Who there was? When I say giant, not tall. Big scholar person. Who there was? Hazal say that from her descendants came beautiful 6 Jewish giants in Torah. David HaMelech was one. Hiskiyahu HaMelech, the king Hiskiyahu, Yeshayahu, and then it was Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Together 6. Beautiful, scholar, giant people in the Jewish religion. He hinted to her.
מה עם שלמה? זה לא מהזרע של דוד?
No, but that was David, that was David himself. That was the son of David. Here we're talking about from her descendants. Anyway, Hazal say that Boaz that night was in two ways. 2 minds. That's it. Shukwa. What to do? He took an oath in the front of Ruth and he said, I will never touch you until I marry you. In the morning, Boaz sent a message to Tov, his uncle also. I would like to meet with you. There is we have a problem, Din Torah, that we have to do. And I need to meet with you with another 10 scholar person. Please come and sit with us. He came and they start debating. And Boaz said to Tov, the brother of Elimelech, that's the husband of Naomi, he said to her, look, Naomi wants you to be the Goel, to redeem the land, to redeem all what your brother have. Tov was very happy. What can he lose? But Boaz said, there is one more thing. If you want to take all the heritage of your brother, there is one thing come with that. Ruth. Who's Ruth? He told him, Ruth was the daughter-in-law, the Moabite daughter-in-law. Up to here. Tov said, I agree to it. I have now with Ruth, I'm changing my mind. I don't want it. Boaz said to him, would you mind if I marry her? He said, not at all. Not at all. Boaz done a kinyan in the front of the 10 judges, the 10 scholar person. And Hazal asked, why did Boaz have to bring 10 people to do a kinyan? You can do it with 2 people, Shnei Adim. Why do you have to bring 10 people?
It's stronger. Mina.
Public? Well, public knowledge. What public knowledge? You'll see now. It was in a Jewish law, we have a law. We're not allowed to marry a Moabite. Nachon? And now you, Boaz, want to marry a Moabite? That's the law. So here they make a judgment. They make a judgment that you're allowed to marry the woman Moabite. But a man Moabite, you're not allowed to marry. Why? Hazal say, Mishum shelo kidmu, that because the Moabite didn't welcome you, Mishum shelo kidmu etchem belechem ubemayim, that when you came out of Egypt, just before you enter Eretz Israel, the Moabite nation the men didn't come out and welcome you and giving you bread and water to eat after marching in the desert. Don't marry the man, but the woman you're allowed to marry. What's the difference, Hazal say? Because the way of a woman to be at home. It's not for women to go outside to give, to welcome other strange people. So therefore, Boaz, pasken here halacha. That's a public knowledge that you're talking, Nachon, Stephen? That's from here we learn el halacha. That from that day, Boaz make pasken halacha that we allowed to marry a Moabite woman, but not a Moabite man.
But now, wait.
Wait. Not now. Boaz now make a kinyan. What it mean kinyan? What it mean a kinyan? He took his shoes out. Today we do a kinyan in a hatuna. when the rabbi, when you marry someone,
You really
you take a pen or you take a handkerchief. I'll tell you a story. I needed to make a kinyan when I married my son. I don't know how many of you was, but Joe, did you wasn't so I needed to make a kinyan. And it's a strange feeling when you give your own son something and to say to him, this is belong to you. After 25 years or 26 years that he's been with us, that everything is his. Suddenly I have to do a kinyan. So anyway, here Boaz have to do a kinyan. How did they done the kinyan? Hazal tell us that he took his shoes off. He done a proper kinyan. And now he inherited all the belonging of Elimelech. And Hazal said that he married Ruth as a wife. Now listen to it. You know what was the age of Boaz and Ruth? Listen to it. It wasn't young people. Boaz was 80. 80 years old.
Sure.
And Ruth was a half of his age, 40. Boaz have a marriage with two adim, Kedat Moshe v'Yisrael. He married Ruth.
Isn't Moavia Aaron?
Just listen 1 second, and in the end you'll ask whatever you want. I'll give you time. After he married Ruth, Hazal tell us that night they've been together, Hatan and Kala. Ruth fell pregnant. Boaz died the following morning.
No. Tov was clever.
Boaz died. Ruth pregnant. Hazal tell us now something very interesting. And the Megillah ending up something very interesting. Look how the Megillah ends. That Ruth have a child and a name of Ovad. Ovad have Ishai. Ishai was the father of David HaMelech. What's the connection? Hazal tell us something very interesting. Why did it ended up like this? To tell us that Ruth was the mother of the kingdom. Ruth lived for so many years that she managed to see the grandson become a king, and the grandson become a king, Ema Mamlacha, to tell us that, to show us that how much Ruth suffer. Ruth can go back to her house. She doesn't have to go with her mother-in-law to suffer poverty, poorness, embarrassment. And also, she stuck into the Jewish religion. And she done kindness and hesed with her mother-in-law. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I don't forget. You know, the chip of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is unlimited. The memory there is unlimited. I'll pay you for it. You're going to suffer here, but your grandchildren are not going to suffer. And a matter of fact, when Ruth, after that, never suffered anymore, you know why? Because Boaz was a judge, was a rich man. She gone back to where she was. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu reward her. And from her descent, Rabotai, Shevet Yehuda become the royalty family. David HaMelech was the second king in the Jewish nation. And from here, Malchut Yehuda. That means from now on, until the Mashiach will come, I would like to bless all of us that we should all merit to see the Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen. And then there is no more pain, there is no more harm. And then when the Mashiach comes, it's going to be from the descendants of who? Of Ruth. Abotai. Why do we read it on Pesach and Shavuot? Because David HaMelech born in Shavuot, the Gemara says, and died in Shavuot. And from David HaMelech will come Melech HaMashiach. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we should all be merit to see the Mashiach in our day. Amen. Can you hear it?
Amen.